Mm. Mm. Okay. Okay. Uh, Let me go. Hello. I'm late. I'm gonna be doing some birds. Like, most likely a bird with how fast I paint and the detail I'm trying to get. But that's what's gonna be happening. That's why the S isn't in parentheses. This is Arteza watercolor. I'm using it to use it. I will not purchase this again. It doesn't work for my watercolor style. It bleeds. It tears easily. I don't like it, so that's why I use gouache on top of it. And let me get this up. Hmm, there we are. I'm just deciding on what bird I want to paint. I'm very much drawn to this one. I like this one. Of course, there's chickens. Do a chicken. Peacock. Ooh. I am on Unsplash right now, which is a. Mm, I think I'll do this one. Mm, I'm gonna do chicken again. At first thought, best thought. Sometimes you just gotta do what looks good. Oh, that was a bug. It scared me. Let's drop my masking tape. Oops. Mm. Ah, I select that other one. I'm so indecisive. Mm. I'm trying to see. Mhm. Where is my... I need my eraser. Where's my eraser? Okay. Oh, found it. Woo. Okay. Okay. Hi, it's Amber Wild. Yeah, I got this photo from. I'm on Unsplash right now. I don't know the name of the bird, honestly. I just spent like the last 7 minutes trying to find my eraser. This my drawing is getting a little bit overrun, so oh, sparrow, sweet, sweet. So I'm putting in the sketch. Um, for this sparrow. I saw you were drawing a realistic animal like I am right now, so I had to see. Awesome. Yeah. I like to paint. I'm this is gonna be a gouache painting. Uh I usually do watercolor or gouache for my art. Um but I'm doing gouache because this paper is not the best paper for watercolor. And right now I am locking in. Um yeah, so this is my portfolio. This is old stuff. I don't want to show that. So there's this from 2020, and some of these are old. This is all watercolor. And then the ones that are missing are in the background, but I'll pull those in a second. Um, and it just needs to improve slowly but surely. And then my more recent stuff is this. Oh, there's a glare. This is gouache. Um, and whoop, get the light. This, and then these. Um, so I'm working on a series of fantasy kind of critters. Yeah. So that's what I do. And then I have um those last ones took, I think, at least 12 hours of real time painting. They're in my archives on Twitch. I did most of the painting on Twitch. Um, and this is my sketchbook for my practice. So this is the before, and I'm slowly just getting used to more and more detail. So this is how I was painting birds before versus now. And I do turn my sketchbook all kind of wild ways because I want it to be the most advantageous for how I'm painting. Here's this one. I think this one's actually expiring. I think it's gone. I painted this on Twitch though. Um, more of these. And these sketches take me about 4 to 3 hours because they're smaller and not as detailed. Here are some line portrait practice that are completely off and bad. And then I painted this yesterday. Honeycomb. Thank you. I appreciate it. A lot of time. I like painting, so right now I'm trying to I would like to become an illustrator. I have yet to do stuff like for paid work. I would like to be an illustrator for like a chapter book, or not necessarily a storybook, because that the preschool level of books are not my like. I have a lot for any. I don't have another word for it, like style and or aesthetic. Um, I prefer that kind of like that. What you find like on D&D covers, like the book. So right now, what I'm doing is blocking in the feathers because it's going to be detailed. I rather pencil in, and it might get covered up, but I rather pencil in and figure out where the feathers are going to be and how they're going to lay before going in with paint, because it's annoying. It's like it's hard to constantly correct in paint. Like it's opaque, so I could correct, but I would rather get the laying down correctly now than figure out while I'm painting. That's what I use the drawing face for, is to figure out distinct shapes and direction of the detail, so I don't have to figure out while I'm painting. Yeah, yeah, you can do pencil a lot easier too. I also would highly, if you're, because I'm doing gouache, I'm doing the pencil sketch on the paper of the final image. If you're doing watercolor, I don't recommend that, because the more you erase, the more you can affect the texture of the paper. And because watercolor is a transparent medium, that texture will show through, and it's not a good time. So draw the sketch in a sketchbook and then transfer it. Oh, it is. So the wash is a medium very similar to watercolor. Watercolor is pigments, so different for paints. Um, so for paints, there are some mediums that are water soluble and some that aren't. So watercolor is usually, I think the binder is gum arabic, which is water soluble, and that's why it gets the flow. And so whenever you paint with it, it really is organized. I think of watercolor as organized staining of paper, because you're always going to see paper underneath, and the widest, lightest pigment you'll ever see is actually the page itself. So you cannot, once you go over a piece, it's going to be stained and you can't go back. So you have to reserve your highlights and work from lights to darks as you do the placements and refine the image and refine the form and the shadows. The difference with between gouache and watercolor is that gouache has a little bit more pigment, usually some kind of pigmentation in it that makes it opaque, and then also I think less binder, so it's thicker on opacity straight out of the tube, and it kind of feels and works like pudding. That's how I feel it. Like the consistencies you can work from a like a thick kind of sauce, like a gravy to pudding, or if you water it down enough, it will behave exactly like watercolor, but then you lose that opacity because it is watered down. Um, with watercolor, you can have opaque watercolors, but even then, it will still have some kind of sheerness or translucency or transparency to it. You can even see tests like on YouTube. If you look at people swatching watercolors, and like when you look at these opaque watercolors over a dark line or what have you, and you'll see what after it dries, it will still have that dark mark underneath it. um, Another thing to consider is that I have found, for the most part, when painting with gouache, the color that's in the pan when it's wet is the color it's going to be when it dries. That is different from watercolor, because when I paint in watercolor, as you lay the layers down, because it's very wet, it seems dark. And then when it dries, you come back to it, and it might shift a level or two in its like um its value, not its hue but value. Value is dark to light, hue is the color, like the chromancy, red, yellow, magenta, green, what have you, blue. Um so yeah. So the approach is different based off of the medium. And because I'm going to be using gouache, I'm going to be most likely blocking in all of the colors, putting in the darks first, getting to the mids, and then going over with a highlight. When I would, if I work this as a watercolor, I first would make this sketch, get the make this lines as thin as possible, as light as possible, and then get the correct form and shapes, and then work it in a specific order to allow for the time for the different sections to dry as I stain the paper. Have you taught art before? You sound so knowledgeable about it. I've only really talked about art as I do Twitch. Honestly, it's one of the things I'm passionate about, and I like helping people. It's kind of in my nature, I'll be honest, to help to 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 to, to help people learn. And the only reason why I say that is like whether it's art or at my job, I've helped people. At my like 9 to 5 job, I work in the office and I work in fraud, and I help people understand like the workflows of what the specificities of what I need to do in other lines of business and such like that. Even like when I was younger and in high school, I used to tutor students and stuff. So, well, thank you for educating me. Gosh, that sounds pretty interesting. Oh, you're welcome. I am glad you're here and you learned something. That's my whole goal, is to share the joy of creativity and what it like the process, and enjoying the process of art. And gouache is a really interesting medium, and I also like it because, unlike other paint, I like water-based mediums. Um because they're easy to handle and deal with, not only as to paint with, but you have to be cautious of how you care for the medium itself. Like oil, like oils, you have to use certain astringents or thinners and stuff like that, and the disposable of them is like a lot, at least in my opinion, because you can't just throw it away. There's some things you just can't throw away without it being caustic to the environment. You have to be a responsible artist, kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't want to be bothered, so I'll use water. um, and you don't even have to spend a whole lot of money on gouache. I have two sets. One set is by Winsor and Newton, and it cost me about actually less than $20. It's priced at $20, but if you go to Michael's and you have a membership, which doesn't cost you any money, it's like their little rewards, like punch a card program that they have. You buy enough, you get points, blah 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 blah. But like on occasion, they will have a coupon like for 20% off one item, and that's when I shop there. That's really it. um, and same thing for Joann's. If you like art supplies, Joann's usually has some kind of coupon if you sign up for their membership and go from there. And you can always start out with, I know some people are like, well, it can hinder you if you start out with student stuff, which give or take, yes, but at the same time, sometimes it's just not cost effective to start out with artist grades. So if you get a mid grade, you can still learn kind of how the medium will work. At a certain point, though, it could get a little frustrating if the student grade isn't up to par with how it works or flows and all of that. So, yes, but at the same time, if you're just barely starting in the medium, you have no understanding or feel for it, you don't even know if you're going to like it. I would not recommend spending more than $30 on any kind of new medium that you are not interested in. I think that's just my hot take. Because there's like, even for like digital art, if you want to get into digital art, there are free programs such as Krita. That's what I use, and then you can get a digital tablet for $25 from Huion, Wacom, or whatever. And a tablet is one without a screen. So, like, again, anything like less than $30, like, it's more, and I have never tried it before. I don't know if I'm willing to put that cost in there. That's according to my own economics, if that makes sense. Um, so get these feathers in really quick. You said you were drawing a bird, or no, a animal, weren't you? Of some kind. What animal are you drawing and or painting and or staring at intently and then not putting mark to a page? Because I've been there, done that a lot. Ooh, puppy! What kind? Like what breed? I don't know all the breeds, but like I know like a pit bull or a poodle or a retriever. Those are, I think, the whippet. Oh, a corgi with their little butts. Oh, I love corgis. I think they're so cute. I don't think I've actually met a corgi in person though. I've never met one in person, like seen and touched one in real life, you know? Oh, I do pretty pencil because that's what I'm most comfortable with, and I haven't drawn in about 3 years ish. Hey, as long as you just take the time and try something that can't hurt. I usually a lot of my sketching, because I either do pencil or again, low cost entry. So when I practice, this is my sketchbook. These are just acrylics, and I put Mod Podge over it. This sketchbook is black, and I have multiple sketchbooks that are black, and I got tired of picking up a sketchbook and figuring out it was the old one. So I just like put a bunch of color on it so I could pick it out of the stack. But I sketch in pen. And when I say pen, I mean cheapest pen possible. I have one available. Let me see. Like a Bic, just a Bic. Um, this was cheap. You get like a pack of 100 of them for $5. Um, yeah, and they're not always the best, but different line practices. And the reason why I do pen is because when I do pencil, I tend to get really fixated on the line and trying to erase. So to force myself from erasing, I use pen. Those are just notes. So that's why I end up doing. Yeah. So if you are comfortable with with pencil, I recommend, just to increase your practice and get more comfortable with your line confidence, is starting to do pen, like Bic pen, because with those you can still have that line weight variation, and it will kind of teach you and force you to learn to draw lighter and heavier and stuff. So this is all done with pen, and then it kind of forces you to go harder if you need to. And I do like mice. I get a little. I like little critters. I think they're adorable. I like a good little critter. Oh, look at you, all kind of cute. Ooh, how many of your pet rats do you have? Yeah, like I don't know. I have seen a lot of like the shorts where they show people like with their tiny little. The algorithm got me. So like pet rats. Is it no ferrets? What's the other one that gets me every time? Uh, little doggies. Most of oh, even rats. How when it comes to rats, are you is it better to have them like in pairs, like they have a like a group, like it's better for them to be in a group versus alone? I don't know. Because they have like a pack mentality that's better for them to be in groups. Oh, pairs. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. You're super social. What are the names of your little little ratatas? I Raticates because I'm a nerd and Pokemon Forever is grind within my blood. I am bound forever to our overlord Pokemon. Gotta catch them all. I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. No, I. You know what's bad when when you know what's really bad when I was in college and studying math and my default song learning like integrals was um singing the opener for Pokemon. I was like, I want to be the very best. X to the squared equals Y plus Nugget, Pebbles, Almond, and Celeste. Not sure how to spell the last name because I didn't name her. I think that's right, but I also am very bad at spelling. If the world was coming to an end and the omnipotent beings that are celestials demanded that I either complete a song lyric and or spell something accurately, I would just turn to the camera and say, "We're prepared to perish." Like we would be gone. Like I'm so bad at spelling. It is it's luck of the draw. It's luck of the draw every time. I'm like, how did I miss this letter in my own name? I've had this name for 30 years. How did I? All right. Okay. Like that's what we're doing. Sweet. Sweet, 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 sweet. And I wish I was better. My mom always is on me like, that's how you spelled that? I'm like, yep. Yep. That's how I spelled that. That's how I spelled that. And it was a guess. And it was a bad one, not an accurate one. And then I think it's real funny when my mom, like, you're worse than me at song lyrics. Because she always says singing the wrong lyric, like with confidence too. Because like like that game where like you mishear the lyrics, um, or the common like misheard lyrics of songs. I'm like, that's her all day. Like she's just, I'm like, Mom, that's not, that's not those lyrics, man. And like for me to know that, that's the funny. Figure out who's here. Should be. Oh, that's why I'm getting it too small. But I don't have any pets. My apartment doesn't allow pets at the moment. At the moment, they've never allowed pets. That's kind of their thing. But if I do ever move, I would like to have a pet. Maybe I say that, but then I'm like, I have to take care of something else. I don't know if I want to get up and walk a dog every day. I have my house doesn't allow pets either, but we don't talk about that. Yeah. Unfortunately, like, well, not unfortunately. I like it's so what's the word? The walls aren't like, I guess they're thin. Like I can't hear everything my neighbor does per se, but like I know I would hear a dog. Like and my neighbor would hear a dog if I had like a dog or a cat or whatever. Like you would hear it. And also I'm gonna be real, in this like 1 bedroom apartment, it's not really feasible to have a animal in it. Not really. Not. Yeah, that's true. A rodent is definitely easier to hold than a cat or dog. And I think well, it's I have a 1 bedroom apartment, and like so it like my landlords never come over without warning. They're not like that. Plus it's illegal if they did. But it's just like I did think about like asking them if it would be okay if I had like a goldfish or something, like something that is tank required. And I have a sneaking suspicion that they probably would just be like, yeah, that's fine. Especially, I've lived in this apartment for over 5 years now, um, and they're pretty relaxed and chill about specific things. Like they are like very communicative. I like my landlords because they handle problems promptly and quickly without any further cost to me. Especially if I wasn't the one who broke it or whatever. And even if it did break, they fixed it. So, uh, but that's why I haven't moved. I would like a bigger place, but I'm like, I like my landlords. I don't, I don't want to go anywhere else because I don't. I've heard bad stories. But see here, drawing the biggest shape first and going in within the parameter of that detail, and then checking the size to what is going on here. But I did have goldfish growing up at my mom's. I've had, I can't read. I've heard bad stories too. I have a friend who recently more or less got her pet stolen by her landlord as she was in the middle of moving out because of how terrible they were. Oh wow, yeah, yeah, that sucks. That's so bad. And it's like, ooh, ooh, I don't want to deal with that. And it was interesting too. When I first got, I was apartment hunting for this years ago. Um, in my location, like how things are done are just the whole property issue. I don't know where you're located. I'm in America, I'm in Utah, and the whole issue with property value and like practices around property, even as a renter, I find to be asinine and unethical, even though it's legal. Like there are some places here that are owned by property management companies, and they'll just charge you random fees because they can, because they think you're not. Most people aren't knowledgeable. Like one of my friends was forced to pay a specific fee. They didn't have her apartment ready, and she was like, "Well, I'm moving from out of state to in state. I can't wait for this apartment to be ready. I have literally nowhere else to go." And then in order to get her deposit back, which they did not refund the fees, like the office fees, and I'm talking, it wasn't $50 for a background check. I'm talking over $500 in fees that she didn't get back. Um, and then they forced her to sign like an NDA or something along the lines, like an arbiter's um, agreement, in order for her to even get her deposit back, so she could use the deposit on the new apartment that she had found that was available. It's just so predatory and scummy, and it's just like, why? This should not be allotted or allowed, but it is. Sucks. And then what is it? This is a kneaded eraser. There's some stuff in it. Um, yeah, it's a kneaded eraser, so you can knead it to get rid of the like graphite. But I like it because it lifts up stuff. I live in New Zealand, so hopefully when I move out my parents' house, it should be smooth. Yeah, hopefully, yes. Yeah. Um, make sure that you read everything when you're moving out. Make sure you read everything that you're agreeing to within your lease. Um, make sure you understand where your utilities are coming from and what the source is. Like if everything is electric powered versus not. Make sure that you know what they're covering, because like in America, depending on the establishment, either you're paying for all your utilities or your landlord will be paying a portion of that, but it's already inside the rent. It depends on whose name it is. And for me in my apartment, the trash and water are in the building's name because they don't have a way to separate the lines to meter each apartment. So there's just one line of water. So it's just a part of our rent overall and stuff. So just stuff like that. Make sure you understand what a circuit breaker is and how to turn things off in a case of emergency, how to change and turn off your fire alarms and other things like that. Those are very important. Um, and if you have the ability, depending on like what home you rent, understand where like the main water shut off valve is, even within your bathroom for your toilet if it overflows. Just those things like that could be helpful and or useful. So that is the base sketch done. It looks really faint far away, but that's what it looks like to me. You can just see it now. So I just sectioned off the feathers and I'm gonna go in with some gouache. um, I use Artesia gouache, which This is what the tubes look like. And then it's not expensive. I think I got a pack, like a thing of 60 for $40, something like that. You don't really even need that many colors. When I paint in my sketchbook that I showed you, that is a batch of colors. It's like, this is usually the batch of colors I use: pale yellow, green, a violet, a blue, a bright yellow, and a brown, which is burnt sienna. When you're first starting out painting, to get better at color mixing, you want to stay with a minimal palette. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the primaries, because the primary mix itself, like red, yellow, and blue, when mixes, you won't get vibrant colors. If you're looking for vibrancy, you want to do, like, within your color mixes, there's a bunch of YouTube videos on this, like red, yellow, blue versus CYM, which is cyan, yellow, magenta, because it will help with the brightness of the color mixes. But just start out with something small, and then you can expand. And these kind of have the primaries already, except for mixing a brown. You can mix brown with primaries. It's a pain in the ass, so I just have a brown. And then I use the purple to darken things. And then you can mix a green. Again, you can, but it's just easier to have a green instead of having to continue. I use green so much that I don't want to continue to have to mix it. And then I usually use pale yellow as my accent or highlight, because it's not as jarring as pure white. Um, so those are options. And then I have basically the same kind of color scheme, but in the Winsor and Newton. So, uh, um, this is a butcher's tray. I got this from Blick. I don't know if Blick is available. Like, Blick is a another store that sells art supplies. I don't know if, I seriously am ignorant if they're international or not. I bet they are. Um, Maybe they aren't. I can look at. I don't know. And I like this because some of my palettes do become stained. But this tray has like an enamel coating, so it does not stain um, even after you use it, because that can affect your. Oh, okay. Yeah. So I like learned about Blick about 2-3 years ago, and it's because I ended up just search results uh in like art stores near me in 50-mile radius. So this is a piece of cloth. Honestly, I cut it off of this right here. This is a piece of cloth that I wet, and if you put the wash on it, it will keep it from the wicking action. It will keep it moist for longer. And then you're gonna want to use either paper towels or a towel. Excuse me. I use a towel because I paint so much. I found myself going through lots of rolls of paper towels, and it was just not cost effective. Uh, so I use a dedicated dish towel that I got from IKEA in a pack. So that is what I use, and I have like 2 or 3 of them. And then when it becomes too filled up with paint, I rinse them out and move on with my day. And then I have 2 mason jars for water. I use 2. I usually keep it one for when I'm using dark colors and one for light colors. That way, if I want to, yeah. I've never heard of Golden Harris, so yeah. Um, there's always something around. I like to start out with when I'm working, I'm gonna make two photos. The other one's gonna be a more loose painting style, so I'm not gonna put a sketch in. But when I this is also gouache, and the wash these are old washes. It activates with water. There is, I forgot to mention, there is a type of gouache called acrylic gouache, um, or gouache acrylic, and that is more similar to acrylic. Acrylic is a very thick uh, polymer paint that when it dries, it's basically a plastic. So acrylic gouache, when it dries, you can't re-wet it and it doesn't actually reconstitute. With these, um, you can have it dry out, add water, and because the mixing the binder is water soluble, it will reconstitute. Just grabbing my brushes. Um, I use different more flat, less fluffy brushes when using gouache because it's so thick that if I use my watercolor brushes, I dropped a brush and I'm trying to find it. There it is. Yep. If I try to use my watercolor brushes, they pick up too much paint and it's just too much paint and I don't like that. I'm putting this tray also is kind of wobbly, so I put the towel underneath it to help with the wobble. Here are my brushes. I tend to stick to rounds and flats, but mostly rounds and different sizes. And what I usually like to do, so I'm gonna pre-wet this paper and I'm gonna work thin to thick. And oh, a spray bottle will always be your friend. Just spraying it down a little bit. Pa-dum, pa-dum, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. You have that re-wet. So I'm gonna wet this paper with water. I like to take down my paper so that it kind of stays flat, especially when I work very wetly. And it also gives it a very nice edge. And there are some bits and pieces in the I forgot to brush it off, so I have a bit of like bits and pieces in the on the paper still. I'm gonna go in and I made it wet. For the sole purpose of getting some fun washes in. This is also why I don't like this paper because it is very not workable for my style. It's probably I'm not saying it's terrible, but it's just not workable for what I like to do. I'm looking for. There you are. So these are watercolors. Um, I'm gonna take this brush and add some. This is much fluffier, much bigger. It holds a lot more water because it's a watercolor brush. So I'm gonna add some interest here. And it's spreading because I pre-wet the page. Yes, it does need thicker paper. So I am using watercolor paper, and it needs to be. I prefer watercolor paper. You can get away with using like mixed media paper with watercolors, but I prefer to use straight up. That's too dry already. I prefer to use straight up watercolor paper because I work very wetly initially. And you can already see that the paper is starting to bulge versus be flat. So that's why I prefer. Watercolor paper is more expensive than like sketch paper because of how thick it is, and then what it's made of. That's one thing that you can't really shirk when it comes to doing watercolor is paper. The paper is the most important thing because that is the thing that's going to be the most like consistently whether or not it's workable. Um, so um, the paper is not workable to your style and is has a lot of issues. You can kind of fudge your way through not great paints, um, but peeling paper or paper who like it doesn't absorb water well or absorbs water too much, or it's like just like a fugitive paper and it's bad. You really can't get away with watercolor because it's about staining the paper. Um, right now, I'm putting a lot of cools in different swatches to mimic the interest that is in here. And I'm also putting in these cools in like greens and blues because this bird is primarily orange. Um, and so the contrast will push the bird forward. I started out using Strathmore watercolor paper. I got it from Walmart. And I was like, yeah. That's why I did a lot of my pieces on. Even some of these I think are Strathmore. And there's differences between wood pulp paper versus 100% cotton. Cotton is, as a plant, is very much absorbing and very nice. And cotton watercolor paper is very nice. But it's also very, very expensive. I do like the brand. I've heard it pronounced Ash, Arches, what have you. But So this looks really confusing and busy, but I'm gonna let that dry. And after it dries, I'll go over it with a glaze that will make it one. So right now, I still want visual interest. I need to clean up my pan. Because all of these colors aren't going to be what I need. This is very much a blue palette, and I'm going to need reds and oranges and browns. So I got to clean this up. It's a murky brown color. I have that dang TikTok stuck in my head. Pa-dum, pa-dum, do-do-do-do-do-do, pa-dum, pa-dum. And I'll get out grab another. There we go. And it's not stained. Yay! There's some paper towel. So I need an orange, which I have. And I need a brown. So this is burnt sienna. Put that there. And I have this orange because I don't want to continue to mix orange to then color mix it to get the different variation and colors. So I'm just gonna use that orange. And this orange came from this pack. I happened to decant it, and so I thought I would use this palette in this way, these tubes more, but I like it directly out of the tube versus in the little thing with jigs. So that's why I have it. And then make sure I put this back in a point, and then go like this. I need orange. I'm going to use a Prussian blue. I'm going to use blue this time. I put blue in the back. You know what? Yeah, first thought, best thought. I'm going to use Prussian blue to do a lot of my shadows and deepening of color. When you're color mixing, it's better to use either a purple or blue to darken a color versus straight up black. Because black kind of makes things muddy and gray. And rarely in real life is anything truly black unless it's like, in the dark of the night, people will find her. In the dark of the night, you will come. You will feel that your night was real. In the dark of the night. I have not watched Anastasia in forever, but my brain went there. Come, my minions, fly for your master. Let your evil shine. Why? Why is it that most primarily all of the evil villains in for Disney films have the best songs, like Ursula has a great one. That's a great song. Rasputin from Anastasia, Scar from The Lion King. Be prepared. Like, yo, you've got your looks. You've got your face, and don't forget about body language. Na, 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 na. I like musicals. So, um, I will need a red, so I'm gonna use Winsor Newton Primary Red. There's some already on here, but let's just make it juicy. I'm not gonna need a whole lot. It's mostly browns. I will need a lot of pale yellow because there is several variations of tans going on here, which is mostly pale. I'm gonna have to buy. I'm gonna have to go to like Blick and buy one thing of pale yellow gouache because this tube is it's a struggling. It's so thin. Um, I'll add a little bit of white on there, and then I have blue. I have red. Those are mostly the colors that are in this, and some orange. Yeah, so you don't need all of the colors ever, always. And I'm gonna start working from the darks to the lights, and I'm gonna make in the dark of the night we will find her, find her. In the dark of the night will come. Soon she will feel that night was so real. In the dark of the night, in the dark of the night, come my millions, lie for your master. Let your evil shine. Dun, 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 dun. In the dark of the night, in the dark of the night, in the dark of the night, she'll be mine. I am adding some of this. This is mixing medium by Winsor & Newton. I don't have a. I live in Utah, which is in the middle of the U.S. So it doesn't. We don't have a lot of stuff. It's not like it's a hyper metropolitan area, so I don't have a lot of like art stuff around me. Mostly major retailers like Michaels or Joann's or Blick. Um, so I only have like Winsor & Newton stuff, or I don't have a lot of access to indie paints. But this is Winsor & Newton watercolor blending medium, and it makes it so that the washes don't dry as quickly. It extends the working time. That's what that means. So when I start out with this pan with those washes that dry down, this extends the time for those washes to dry down, and then that's important, um, especially when you are working. So I am looking at the darkest color here. I'm gonna get some. This is a size. I always mostly work in a size 6 round. The reason why I like a round, I like the allows you to work big to small. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot. Um, but I like to work big to small, so I rarely will change the brush unless I'm doing detail work that this brush can't do, or I'm doing big things. So like I'll start off with this because of the big area, but I know that this bird, all of these different sections are going to be very, very small. So I'm going to most likely just stay with this brush, and it gets to a very, very fine point. There are some rounds that don't do that, and I like to throw those across the room. Um, yeah, there are add-ins. There's different things, and even for specific mediums, you have to pick the mix-in appropriate for the medium. So if you saw that rush of pigment, this is a water-soluble pigment because as soon as that pigment hit that water and it spread, pigments will rush to where the water is. So that's why I pre-wet the paper so it would spread and have looser edges and stuff instead of it being a hard edge. That's all about control and understanding your things. So, um, but I'm gonna mix up a dark color here using the burnt sienna and some of this Prussian blue, and it makes it very, very dark, but also blue toned. And that way, we'll move these out of the middle, to the side, out of the view of the camera. I like to have my washes in view so y'all can see what I'm mixing. And I like to work with the consistency. Now, this is, before it was very thin washes, right? And now I'm getting to that stew kind of thick sauce consistency. So as I paint, I need to control the consistency of the paint, which helps with the flow of the paint, the wetness of the paint, um, and its opacity too. So I'm gonna go in with this dark color, and I will make it darker even more so later. This is like a medium dark, and I'm gonna go here to this first feather and paint in these dark areas. And this will be interesting, to say the least, on how I'm going to do the shadows, because I didn't really think about them. Per se. Let me see here. And that's why I also like to do in my own rendering and understanding of making an image. I have found that I don't have enough contrast in my paintings. So starting out opaquely with the darks helps me to punch in the deep hues as soon as possible. And it might look a little bit green, just a touch, but I think that will help with the color harmony of the overall page. And I'll be working with this thick sauce-like consistency for most likely the majority of the image. And I have really no idea or clue as to why I started out with the feathers. I was like, nah, this is the darkest spots I could see, so I'm going to paint them in. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of pale yellow. Not a little. I'm going to put some pale yellow down. Put a touch of this already color mix into it to make the darks I need for the rest of the image. Oh, I skipped one. Okay. So there's one. And the mixing medium itself can be added directly to the paint. And I will do that sometimes, but majority of the time, I like to keep it in the water so I don't have to keep adding it to every single mix. And the way I work so it's consistent, is adding more and more to the same color mixes as I go. We have a little bit of darkness in this corner right here. And I can go over with the feathers später. Here. And to get the underbeak here. And this here. And then put some stripes into here. And I wouldn't say, it's not that my painting style isn't realistic, but I also wouldn't say it's the overarching thing was I wanted to look like a photo. That's not my goal when I'm painting. I'm trying to paint the bird. If I wanted a photo of the bird, I would just print out the photo. Some people like to draw and paint hyper realistically. That's not my bag. So I don't. There's nothing wrong with it. I think those are amazing and it's very skillful, but I don't go too hyper realistic in my stuff. I still like to have the paint texture show up. And when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that's a painting. That's kind of my deal. It's a good painting, but it's a painting kind of thing. Oh, we're running out, so grab a little bit more paint, a little bit more Prussian blue, a little more water. It's all in micro miniature changes to what's happening here. It's too much paint. There we go. Try not to spread. I definitely so crazy with the realism. I spent like 20 hours total just trying to copy the photo. I mean, more power to you. That's amazing. I I think I've tried to do photorealistic stuff. But I think also while I am a patient person, eventually I just look at it and I'm like, good enough. I'm not good enough. Like I throw my hands up. But I do like watching different photorealistic artists on there's one guy, he doesn't paint, he uses graphite. On I watch a lot of YouTube, so that's my references. But I watch him a lot because I'm just amazed by the process he goes through, and even kind of helps me. I like watching all various forms of art and how people render to help me with my own process. I'm like, I'm not necessarily trying to reach the same goal they're reaching, but it is interesting to see what tips and tricks they do to get where they go. a dog I never finished drawing. I gave up and just kept the paper smaller and said it was done. Hey, sometimes you got to do that, and no one knows but you, and you tell nobody. It's fine. Like, oh, how long did this take you? Is it done? You're like, yeah, it's totally done. Yes, this is finito. This was the image I wanted to do. That was a part of the cards. That was the plan. It was in the heart of the cards. For me, sometimes it takes my strength, like my full strength. Sometimes I'll get really frustrated with a painting, and it takes all of my strength not just to rip it into pieces. I'm just like, you know what? I spent so much time, but I want to go feral on this piece of art, on this piece of paper, straight up. I want to end this paper's existence because I am angry. Okay, let me see here. I think so. Now, what I need to do is I'll pick up a bit of this pale yellow, mix it in the corner. Same mix, slightly lighter, ever so slightly, because I'm gonna get these tail feathers in here. And take a little bit of brown, put it in the upper corner. Yeah. I think there's some paintings that I just didn't finish and I walked away from. I'm like, you know what? This was not my journey. I'm I'm done. Like still working. And even with the painting, I'm trying to block in the colors. I can refine everything. These are just the major shapes for the form and color. Because I can always go over it with glazes and different things to get what I want. This one is I'm not completely filling this in because I know I'm going to go back over it with the lighter edges that every one of these feathers in this section has. I still want to fill in the color a bit. And I just realized I didn't put any color in between the legs right there. Whoops. I can do that later. Do the other side. I did lose some of this drawing, so I'm about to pull this up to my face. It's still there. It's just very light, so please hold. I literally can't see it. So I had to pull it up to my face. I didn't know where that edge was, so I had to just bring it up to my face to see that line because it got distorted by the wash. The background colors I did. And I'm painting around the shapes right now. So I gotta think about what I'm gonna color this branch. I could look up a branch. Well, I might just do that. Look up a branch and then paint it after the fact. Yeah, okay, that's correct. And then the head looks to be similar colors, but has a bit more red in it. Oh, I can add the red later. I'm gonna put in. Okay, okay, it's 6 a.m. I gotta try sleeping. Hopefully, I'll catch your next stream. Yeah, I appreciate you dropping by and hanging out with me. Get some rest. Time zones are a beast. It's 12:40 p.m. for me. I think you're ahead of me in time too. But I hope you get some good rest, have some good food, had dinner, whatever you need to do. Going in right here. I appreciate you stopping by. And I added some more of that burnt sienna. Bye. Um, I'm adding more of that red color as we go. So, burnt sienna pulls a little bit red in my eye, so that is what I am marking here. That saucy consistency. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this pale yellow, mix it in, and make this kind of section right here. Which is about the same color as the neck, more or less, give or take. Maybe a little bit paler. And then when I get to this area, I'm going to take some pale yellow. Bit of white, just to lighten that a bit. I'll go in later with some. Not even later, right now. I'm going to take some of this and mix it on their page. And take a little bit of this color here. I'm going to get the darkest. Get a little bit blue. Too blue, so a darkest color for this area here. Swipe it through. It's a little bit dark, but I can lighten it up here. And that. And this does make a little bit of sense, the blues being in here. Because even though the background is also blue, it makes sense that some of these feathers would reflect that light. Different variations of the same mixes. Get lighter and lighter with the form. Do need to more white. That's a later thing. Take this, put it down the back here. Painting around some of the paint I already put down. Looking at my initial sketch, feels like I made this way a little bit too thickums. It's a little bit too wide. That should be that. I'm gonna do is scooch everything over just a little bit. That's better. And go here. try working these shapes in. I'm also going to mark this out a little bit here. This will be painted over, but I need to know where that's going for my own sanity. And then, okay, so this I need to get this going here. Here. Get all of the dark marks I can. Before I go lighter. Slowly but surely. And I'm going to outline this. Now that's going to be covered. Outline it really quickly so I know what's doing what where. Now I'm going to get into this orange. Well, not yet. I need to this real quick. And then take blue. Blocking the ink. And the eye, why not? Oh, I think it needs to be a little bit bigger. And I think it's orange time. I'm gonna grab this orange, add a touch of red to it, and then I don't need a whole lot, just enough. Okay. There's a hair. What is that? Oh my goodness. Going down here, putting in these darker oranges, and then I'll put in the lighter oranges, and looking at the order that the color is on the feather, and the color goes like dark to orange to that pale orange. It looks almost white, but it's most likely like a pale orange or a near pale yellow. Line these shapes in. Also painting in the direction of the feathers. I'll be using the same orange mix to lighten the now I get that a little bit too thick. I had that stuck in my head. It's gonna be the end of me. So right here. The colors changed a little bit from the initial color mix, but that's quite alright. I like the variation. Now I'm gonna pick up some of this pale yellow again. Should test this, but living on the edge. Go here. If we listen to each other's hearts, oh, and maybe there's a reason why. It's still blocking in the color just feels quite intricate at the moment because of how small everything is. It's not, it's like mid-range detail. Not being too precise with like the brush strokes and getting the feel in a way. And then some of these aren't blended accurately. Color here. Swiping through. With the general color. Probably I'll go on top with more detail. Second. Let this area right here. I put that down pretty thick, so I'm wedging. Some of this. Blending it after the fact so it's not as harsh. Nothing on my brush right now. I just put it in the water, hit the paint that's lifted off, and going back, blending. I need a lighter brownish color. What do I have here? Yeah. There's that. Picking up some of this dark wash that I already had. Add some pale yellow to it. And then some more of that reddish tone. So it's a different, lighter color than this one. So that's more blue tone. This is more red tone. Just for variation purposes. Even on these, they look a little bit more red down here. Red tone. And then yeah, a little bit of that. Fully color this. Now that I got everything blocked in, I can focus up on everything. I'm gonna go grab some cereal. I'm hungry. Or something. I don't know. Very much the I'm gonna look up a branch. Why not? Yeah, fuck it up. There we go. And a bigger brush. That is too much blue. I will take a little bit, but I got a whole lot. Whoops. That was an accident. Trying to add some shadow to this tree here. It's really loose, kind of painterly, sketchy thing going on. I'm not going to detail this too much. This is kind of like the mid-ground thing. I want it to be a little bit fuzzy here. Stick out a little bit, but not too much. Okay, and that was just a little bit more loose and flowy versus what I was doing before. Which was a nice break. So now I'm take a little bit of this. Try to match that energy so it's not completely dry. And I did mix up. What do here? Up there. I'm about to do these tail feathers. Oh, add some mixing medium directly to the color swatch. Ooh, baby. Hit me, baby, one more time. My loneliness is killing me, and I must confess, I still believe that when you're not with me, I lose my mind. Give me a sign. Hit me, baby, one more time. I must confess, my loneliness is killing me now, and you know that I'm gonna leave you inside me, baby. One more time. Oop, drop my brush. Switch to this one. Right there. Oops. That's stuck in my head now. And I must confess, I still believe that when you. I swear to God, if I get copyright strike from singing that song, I will lose my mind. Like my little self? Come on now. And I'm using two different brushes at the moment just to avoid having to keep switching between the two disparate colors. Because I need to blend. I take this even finer one and get a little bit of this darker orange. Well, the paint's still wet. Let's see. And run that on that edge. And then this brush with no color on it. And blend the two together. One. This darker color here. Oops. Just run the edge. Cool. A bump in the page. I think that's some extra paint. Scrape that off. I have no idea why there's a bump in the page right here. There we go. Do that again. I will see this, and my loneliness is killing me. Hit me, baby, one more time. And I must confess, I still believe. Here. Now we're doing detail. And this edge is not crisp enough, so back over it. There we go. And take this orange color is over that edge very thinly. Very thinly. It's like a grayish. And this color underneath I'm not going to move on because these ones also need attention. A little bit too much paint on my brush, just wipe that off. Painting around this edge here. Get that final shape. Yeah. Pull out the white. It's like a grayish going on. more. A little bit too wet, but I'm working with it. Yeah, it's a little too wet, so I'll have to wait to put that orange in. And this here. All the way up. That gray white. Fix this edge right here. Wait for that to dry, so I'm gonna mix. Nah, I'll go up here. If these bottom ones dry, I'm gonna go here. Refine these a little bit more. Here's the break. And so I need to put this. Here. That. I think I lost a feather in there. I'll just add it back. The same thing on the other side. And I like to block in everything and then go in with detail instead of rendering one section out all the way. It just works better for my process. covering this last feather on the bottom here. It's dried out. And I'm probably need to put some gray washes on here. Now, hate when I do that. Luckily, it didn't become a thing. Get some brown tones or neutral browns now. In a hot second. Back. It's getting more defined down here. So I'm gonna add this back. Right there. Go back in with that gray. Make it then I need a brown. Using this on my brush, a little bit of water. Picked up a little bit of darker brown here. Pulling that out. Back to this near black in this corner here. Ever so slightly underneath these. I need a gray brown. Big brown there. Some white right there. gray it out just a touch. And finally, take some of this white and this over here. First, I mix this with pale yellow, but I'm gonna add just a touch of white, pure white. Even lighter. I probably should do this after I do the wash the background, but I'm thinking about it now, so I'm just gonna do it. Oop, that's too much pigment on my brush. I need a fine line. And it's ever so slightly lighter than what I started out with. Do that to the other side. This dark gray color going here. Brownie, like a brownish gray. A little bit darker than when I set down. Take this near black, pop that under the feather. I don't know why my mic turned off. I don't know when it turned off. My bad. But how about now? Okay. So I don't know why is it doing this? I don't understand. I charged it overnight and it's just being stupid. So I don't know. Did you not say we did? I'm gonna get a different USB mic because this is not working for me at all. I say that every stream, but you're probably like, "What are you doing?" And I was talking the whole time. I honestly don't know when it went off, but say la vie. Most janky shit ever. I am working in the shadows of this feather right now using the dark browns from the feathers above. Because when I'm looking at the picture, a lot of the darks for this image kind of hit the same value. Um, so like the dark on this feather is the same as the darkness on this feather is very similar or very much the same to the darkness on the color of these little areas right here. This color is the same as the same like value as the shadow here. Stupid mic. Oh, that annoys me. I'm a professional streamer. Not really, but the main reason why I stream is just to force myself to practice painting and art on a regular basis. That's my whole deal. Not a professional streamer. I think I need to lighten this area over here. Now that I look, what's going on? And this shouldn't have been split two. It should be one here. Grab. A little bit too wet. It's a little too dark. Ooh. Make it slightly lighter. Not too much. There's my other little flat. There you are. I like this tiny brush. It's square. It's a flat, size 4. But I like it for blending detail. It's the perfect size. Go here and get in. It's here. Try it a little bit. Trying to maintain the thickness of the paint and the flow of it. So it's a little bit off to me, but it's alright. It's too much on my brush. Let go. Do two things here. A piece of white paper. Don't want, so I'm taking this green up. Oh, right there. Take this pale color. It's probably gonna spread, so back to this darker area. Refine the shape a little bit more. There we go. I need to do these feathers here. So a bit more Prussian blue. So these feathers are very much in the dark. Get correct feel for it. I need a blue gray now. It's very blue, but I don't mind. Let's cover that. There's a certain amount of stiffness that I get as I'm painting, which makes me think that paint is drying up or it's too dry, so I add a little bit of water to help loosen it again. Is this darker color here. Trying to blend it in. And then take this, add a little bit of white in that same area. Make it less flicking that edge. I might go back over and do the same thing. Yeah, I'm not. I think that these ones aren't as fluffy as up here, so. Using the fineness of the point to get the detail in here. One little feather frond at a time. Switch back to this darker color. And then go over here with this gray rich color. Really sharpen that up. So this this. At this point, it's very much like drawing with a pencil. Oh, it's 3 hours. Okay. Oh, it's 1:30. Yep, it's time for me to go. So, oh, it's too milky. Oh, it will be. Working on this for a minute. These washes are killing me. It's not, it's too wet. Okay. That's their house so far. Contemplating if I should keep going or if I should stop. Hmm. So this is what I have so far. Um, the tail is done. I'm working on these tail feathers are done. I have to work on that area. I think for the most part these are done. I still have the wings, the body, and the head. And then the background. This background is not going to be this busy. I'm going to put a wash over it later. So it's going to be a while. It's not going to be, I probably have another 3 hours if I'm going to be honest, working this out. Most likely. But I am hungry. Forgot that was on my brush. Cool. So I think this is where I'm going to call it for my own sanity and health. work on that side there. So try brushing in some of that reflective area of the darkness. It's not completely that matte color, it kind of has that reflection. So I got some white on my brush and I'm swiping it through dry brushed in some of these areas that are lighter compared to the rest of the feather. Oh, okay. I said I need to stop, so I need to stop. After my own spit. Whew. Okay. Thank you so much for hanging out with me while I paint and get my life together. I hope you're having a great Sunday, having a good day, or whenever you're watching this. Hope you get some food and did something creative. That's the whole point. Do something creative. If you can make art, you can make a mark. You can make some art. I will see y'all on Tuesday. Yeah. All right. Bye.